Hello and welcome. We're going to make a little root vegetable today. As I was working on this pattern, I was thinking originally of a beet, so I did make sort of a beet version of it where the chain for our leaves is in the same color as the vegetable. But every time I was trying to think of what vegetable is it I'm picturing, I would ask my husband, babe, what does a turnip look like? What does a beet look like? What does a rutabaga look like? What does a radish look like? And then finally he was like, why don't you just look on Google? And they all basically look exactly the same, with the exception of the leaves are a little different. I would say this looks the most like a radish. This looks the most like a beet. And then if you called it one of those other vegetables, it absolutely would be passable. So if you want to make one of these little guys, the things you'll need are going to be worsted weight yarn and a color for your leaves and a color for your vegetable, and then you'll want a 4mm crochet hook, your needles, some scissors. You want some kind of stuffing, some polyfill maybe. If you're making it for a cat friend, you might think about some dry catnip in there. Totally up to you guys. But beyond that, that's everything you'll need. I'll take you through the pattern and that's it. Let's get started. Getting started on our little root veggie here. We're gonna make a little bit of a longer tail than we normally do to start. And we're gonna make a magic circle. So we're gonna cross our long end over that tail. Going through our loop here, we're gonna wrap, pull up a loop. We'll wrap, pull up a second loop, and then our magic circle is done. We're working down the side with the two strands there. We're gonna go in, wrap, pull up, wrap, pull through two to create a single crochet. And then we're just gonna make 5 more of those. At the end of this very first round, you'll end up with 6 single crochets in there. Once we have all 6, we're gonna pull our tail to close up that circle. And then we're gonna do one more kind of new part here to create the root of our veggie. So we've got all 6. We're gonna leave that hook in there for now. And we're gonna pull as close as you can. That just kind of closes up that little circle. And then we are going to slip into our very first stitch we made and wrap our yarn, pull it through there. And we're pulling through that stitch we ended on just to join them together. And now we're going to take that whole thing, we're gonna flip it over, and we're gonna wrap, or thread rather, our tail onto a yarn needle. Okay, well we have that on our yarn needle. We're gonna do 2 things. First, we're just gonna tie a little knot on the inside here to kind of anchor it down, make sure that our circle stays closed and that that piece of string is never going anywhere. Or not anytime soon, at least. So we'll make it as snug as we can. And then we're gonna go through right dead center to the other side. So we're just heading on through, taking the tail out to the outside, the side that you'd see. And then somewhere nice and close, we're gonna go through a little leg of the stitch. So we're trying to keep it as centered as we can. And we're gonna go and go and go until you get one last little loop on there, and we can take our yarn needle and just kind of tuck it away. And we can leave that loop that the hook is in. If you want to, you can give it a little pull so it doesn't go anywhere while we're doing this part here. And then we're gonna tighten that onto our hook, and we're gonna chain however much you feel like, maybe 10. Sure. And then we'll just kind of tie it off. And make that as tight as you want. And then close to the knot, but not too close. We'll give it a little trim. And that will be the very bottom So our hook goes back into the loop that we ended with earlier. We're going to tighten it back up again. If you haven't already, we chained one after we slip stitched to join. And then in the next stitch, we're going to do one single crochet. So we're going in to that very first stitch. We're going to wrap, pull up, wrap, pull through both. And then we are going to single crochet 2. So we're making a single crochet in that next stitch, and then to increase there, we're going into that exact same spot to work a second single crochet. And we'll repeat this all the way to the end. So you're doing 1 and then 2, and when you get to the end, we'll slip stitch to join, we'll chain 1, and then we'll be ready for round 3. Our third round is going to be another increase round. This time we're going to do a single crochet in the first 2 stitches. So we got plain old individual single crochets and stitch 1, stitch 2, and then in that third one we are going to increase. So you're going in, and then you're going to go back into that exact same spot to create that increase, and we're repeating this all the way around. So when you get to the end, you should end up with 12 stitches. We'll slip stitch to join, we'll chain 1, and then we'll be ready for round 4. Round 4 increase is going to be real easy. We're doing a single crochet in every, or 2 single crochets rather, in every stitch. So that's going to take us from 12 stitches all the way up to 24. So just repeating that increase for every stitch. At the end of the round, you'll slip stitch to join them. So taking that hook into the very first stitch of your round. And then at the end, when you're finished all the increases, you've joined, you've chained 1, for the next 2 rounds, you will have plain single crochets all the way across. So there's no increases, there's no decreases. You'll just be working 1 single crochet into each stitch for rounds 5 and 6. So we'll finish our increase round here, we'll join them. The same thing with the plain ones, just go all the way around. So at the end of each of the next 3 rounds, you end up with 24 stitches, and we will meet back here for round 7. Round 7 is a decrease round. We're going to single crochet into the first 2 stitches. And after that, we're going to work 2 stitches together. So we got 2 plain, and then our decrease, we're going to work the next 2 stitches into 1. The way I like to do that is to go through the first loops only of those next 2 stitches. So you get in the front part of that V shape, we're going to wrap, pull through both of those. Now we end up with just 2 loops on our hook like we would for a plain single crochet. We'll wrap, pull through both of those, and that's it for the decrease. So we are repeating this all the way back to the beginning. So we're going 2 regular single crochets and then working 2 single crochets together for that third piece. So keep going all the way around, slip stitch to join, we'll chain 1, and then we'll meet back up for round 8. So for round 8, we're going to go from 18 stitches down to 12. We're going to have a single crochet in the very first stitch, and then those next ones we are going to work together. So we're going to do that decrease stitch, working the next 2 into 1, and we are going to repeat all the way around. So 1 and a decrease till you get to the end, slip stitch to join, chain 1, and then we're going to add our stuffing. So we ended off with 12 stitches. Our last round is going to be round 9, but before we get there, we're going to add some stuffing in here. I just want to add enough that you've got the shape that you like, and you can squish it a little. It'll still kind of stay in this little turnip or, you know, beet or radish or whatever you want to call it shape. If you are going to add catnip for this, if it's for a kitty cat, you're going to go ahead and add your catnip first, then your stuffing, so it doesn't fall out all over the place. But if it's just for like a play kitchen or whatever else, you can just do stuffing. Round 9, our last round, we've got our stuffing in there. We got it down far enough that it's not going to get in the way of our stitches as we go. Now every stitch is going to be a decrease. So we are going to work 2 together. And those very first 2 stitches. And we're just going to keep doing that until we're at the end. So that's going to take us from 12 stitches. Sorry, camera's picking up the cat instead of the beat here. So we'll go from 12 stitches down to 6. So we'll keep going 12 stitches and then all the way down to 6. We'll slip stitch to join at the end. And then we will get back together to tie it off and start working on our leaves. So we join, we cut that tail away, and then we are going to use what's left of the tail there, wrap around the hook, and then pull through the hook through that last loop, pull it as tight as we can, and we will thread this onto our yarn needle. And once we have our yarn needle on there, we're going to use that to weave those last stitches close. So we're going into the very first one, out through the next one, and then we're going to repeat 2 more times till we are all the way back at the beginning. And then once we're there, we'll just pull that until that little hole at the top is all the way closed up. Making it as snug as possible, and then we're just kind of grabbing somewhere through that beginning or ending rather circle and creating a little knot. Pull that as tight as you can, making sure all our knots are nice and secure. And then we'll take that yarn needle, and whichever direction our knot lays the flattest, we're going to send that needle through the toy. And that's just going to tuck our tail in there, so you can give it a little tension so that it stays on the inside. Snip off what's left. Give it a little massage, and now we're going to go ahead and do our leaves and then add them to the top. For our leaf, we're going to take our yarn, we're going to cross the long end over the short, and then we are going to reach through that little loop, pull up to make our slip knot, and then from there we're going to insert our hook, just tightening that slip knot to where it's snug on the hook, but you can still kind of move around pretty freely. And then we are going to chain 26. So we're just wrapping and pulling our yarn through until we get a count of 26 chains. Once we have those, we'll start to work our way down one side, then the other. So keep going. Once you have 26, then we are ready for our first set of double crochets. So we are going to be working not in that first one, but that second chain down from the hook. We're going to wrap our yarn over our hook. We're going into that chain, and we're going to wrap our yarn, pull up a loop. So now we have 3 loops on our hook there. We're going to wrap, pull through the first 2, and then we are going to do that one more time. We're going to wrap and pull through those last 2. We're going to do that 5 more times into that same spot. This is going to create the curve on the top of our leaf. So just making sure every time you're going into that same little spot right there, it whole kind of starts to make itself a little more known as you're adding those double crochets in there. And then we will be working our way down our leaf from here. So once we have all 6, then our next stitch will be in the following chain. So we're working our way on down. So we're going to leave those there. We're going to wrap, go into the next chain, wrap, pull up, and we're working a double crochet, and then we're going to do the same thing in the next 2 chains. So now we're on single stitches here, just working our way down. So you should have that first set of 6 up here, and then 1, 2, and 3 individual double crochets. Our next 3 chains, we're going to work half double crochet. So we're going to wrap our yarn just like we did for the double. We're going to go into the next chain. We're going to wrap, pull up. So we've got 3 on there again. We're going to wrap, but this time we're going to pull through all 3. So we're doing that 2 more times. And then we are switching our stitches again. It's just making our leaf a little bit more narrow. So we're going to go in without wrapping. So we're just creating a single crochet, wrap, pull up. Now you've got 2 on there, wrap, pull through both of those, and we're going to do 2 more. Our next 5 chains we are just going to slip stitch into, keeping that as the skinniest little part there. So we're going in, wrap, we pull up, and then we pull through that 1 on the hook. So you just have a little less to do each time. Once we have all 5, we're going to be working backward over to the other side of our leaf. So we finished our slip stitches. Now we're going to go in, wrap, pull up for that single crochet, wrap, pull through those 2 more like that. And now we've got our half double crochet. So we're going to wrap, go in, wrap, pull up, wrap, pull through all 3. 2 more times. 1 more. And then those next stitches are going to be double crochets again. So we're getting a little wider toward the top. We wrap, we go in, wrap, pull up, we wrap, pull through 2, and then repeat, wrap, pull through 2. 2 more here. And on our very last one, we will be back to our 6 double crochets from where we started. So that's just going to make the big round end on the other side of the leaf. So we wrap, we go in that very last one, and we are going to go ahead and make 6 double crochets there. We've got all 6 there, and we're working the other side of our chain. It's going to be exactly the same as that first side. We're just going to double crochet into the next 3 stitches. Same thing here. And once you have all 3, you're going to switch to that half double crochet. There's so much cat hair in all my yarn. Wrap, we go in, wrap, pull up, wrap, pull through all 3 for that half double. And we got 1 more after this one. And then we are switching to the single crochets. Nice deep breath. Trying not to worry too much about that splitting yarn. 1 more single crochet here. Then we are going to switch 1 more time to our slip stitches. So we've got 5. 1, and then go through the 1 on the hook. 2 more, and 1 more time. Now we're switching back to our single crochets. So we're going in, wrap our yarn, pull it up, wrap, pull through 2. Oh boy, there's a cat across the street from our house. Just keeps hanging out in the field across the street. And the dogs are losing their minds today. So we finished our 3 singles. We're going back to half doubles for 3 stitches. It was a very cute cat. Actually, it looks like one of our other cats. We joked about trying to catch it and assuming my husband would never know that there was a 4th cat in the house because it would just look like one of the cats we already had. So unless he saw them together, he would never know. 1 more double crochet. And then we are going to join, finding the beginning of those double crochets there. Kind of curl in a little bit. And we are going to slip stitch to join. And that is our leaf. So you can cut off like a medium length tail because we are going to weave these down to the center from both sides, and we'll use whichever one's shorter just to kind of tack them together so they stay like that. And then the other one will sew the leaves onto our little beat. Getting ready to add our leaves on here. We're working through the back side. We're just going to kind of weave the shorter end of our tail all the way down to that skinny center of the leaf. And then once we're there, we're not going to knot off or anything here. We're just going to fold it in half. So now those right sides are facing outward. And we're going to use that tail to just tack the two sides of the leaves together so they'll stand up a little better. And there's no right or wrong here, just kind of going back and forth a couple of times to get them to stick together somewhere in that bottom skinny little portion of our leaf. And then you can, once you feel like you're done, you can come back through to that little inside part. Somewhere near where it's close together, we'll just create a little knot to hide what's left, just securing it there. Well, it's going to stay like just tucked in there, so it doesn't have to be anything special. It doesn't hold anything together. It's not doing anything important, so we can just snip away the rest of the tail. And then the longer one, whichever one was your longer one, we are going to thread onto our yarn needle once again. And then we are going to do the same thing where we are weaving this down toward the center, right where it's folded in half. And once we get down there, we are going to be attaching it to our vegetable. So get that all the way down there, try not to create too much tension. We don't want any weird puckering or whatever ripples in there. Now you're going to grab your veggie and we're going to match up that fold with the top center of our veggie and sew it on. Okay, our leaf is threaded onto our yarn needle. We've got our veggie. We're going to go ahead and attach it. So we're going through kind of almost that whole first round there. It's real itty bitty. We're going to get that to stand up. So you're just sort of placing it where you want it to stand. We want it as close to center as we can get. We're going to catch that. And we're just sort of going back and forth between going through the leaf and going through the body until it stands up where you want it and it feels like it's not loose at all. It's going to be nice and sturdy in there. Sorry, it is so dark here. It is just after 4 p.m. Very wintry. Root vegetables feel very appropriate for this time of year. And again, there's no right or wrong amount of times here. There's no right or wrong exact placement. We're just going as close to the center as we can. And once you feel like it is as sturdy and secure as you need it to be, you know your cat or your person that might play with this better than I do. So once you feel like that's as secure as it needs to be, we're just going to go ahead and tie a knot through the base of the leaf, the green part, so that the knot is kind of camouflaged a little bit there. And we're going to make it as snug as we can, just like with all our other knots. So we're giving it a nice pull there. And then we'll go through the toy to wherever you can get. Putting a little tension on it, getting as close to the toy as we can without snipping any stitches. And then once you give that a squish, that tail will just disappear right back into the toy. And then there you go. Your little radish is all done. It's ready to be played with. I hope you had fun making this. I hope whoever you give it to enjoys it. Thanks for joining me.